Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, outsiders of all ages, it's time for the outsiders, and sometimes you just need to start a little early, and we'll explain why. But first, we need to remind you that the Outsiders is brought to you by the good folks at Poncho. I'm rocking one of the comfy Poncho t-shirts tonight. If you are on the wild side, don't forget the Wild Bill collection is out there for you. The Buckhorn, the Bat Masterson, the long and short sleeve varieties there. You want to check those out. And this week, we're giving you one more look at those pink shirts because you got 50% of the profits from those Poncho pink shirts will be donated to Casting for Recovery, helping fund free fly fishing wellness retreats for breast cancer patients. Make sure you say that slow. Mention Orange Bloods Live when you go to ponchooutdoors.com. We do have the quarterback. He's there. He's ready. Mach 5 is ready to go. Chance Mock is here. I'm Chad Hastings. Bo Edge is dealing with some family business tonight. He and his wife had an engagement tonight. Our man Jason Dick had some things on his schedule. He's unable to join us. So it's just going to be the two of us. So there's more room for y'all in the Specs chat. And yeah, since they deserted us, we decided to fire up a little early. So sue us. Monday Night Football's on and World Series is on. We're going to need to check that out a little bit later. But we also wanted to talk about this Texas offense. Texas gets the win at Vanderbilt. They are 7-1, right on course of where they want to be. The question, though, is about what we're seeing in a team that kind of staggered to the finish line, 27-24. So, Chance, let's dig into this a little bit. I know some people will jump in the chat. Once they pile in, they may all be piling in at 30 or 31, but we'll get revved up here. Give me some overall thoughts on the game and kind of how you took in 27-24, because I know you watch football, obviously, from a quarterback's perspective. What'd you make of the offense, the good and the bad on Saturday?
Well, so I think the good is this. Anytime you go and you play a game on the road in conference, and I don't care if it's SEC conference, if it's Big 12 conference, you got to win the games you're supposed to win, right? Like that's the big thing. We used to always say that is win the games you're supposed to win. Those have to be won. And then if you split the games that are toss-ups, you're going to end up all right. You know, it's a little different in college football. Obviously, you got to win more games than, going 10-8. But that being said, I was very disappointed in the sloppiness of it. I thought the team would come out and be very, very polished and very clean, kind of on a mission after you got just punched in the mouth at home on national TV. And that I thought it would be more of a, we're going to make a statement type game. And it was sloppier than I would have liked. Quinn, to the good side, he stepped up in the pocket a few times. I don't know if y'all paid attention to that, but he did have a few that he moved up in the pocket that very simple move would have helped him out significantly. But we also gave up a lot of sacks to a team that was 9th or 10th in the SEC in sacks coming in. They weren't a team that was known for a great pass rush, especially the guys on the edge. They were able to get home, and we still seem to be having some communication up front. And, so that being said, overall, I give this grade a C+. You won. You got your victory. Defense, I thought, played really good. It's a different offense that you're having to look at than you see on most days, and you got a quarterback that probably is. I like the kid. His fight and his fire is there. Like, he's not the guy that is ever going to pull an Anthony Richardson and tap out in the middle of a series and be like, "Hey, coach, I need to come over." Like, that's not who he is, right? He's the guy that can go take an ambulance ride and then be like, "Oh, is my leg still attached? Put me back in, coach." So a C+. You get the win. The one thing that scares me coming out of this game, for the first time I walked away and I said, Sark doesn't trust Quinn. I don't think he trusts him with the football right now. Everything is a flare out or a back getting him in space or a screen or something under 8 yards. Almost everything. And it screams of Sark doesn't trust him to throw the ball deep. And that to me is a little concerning.
So, Chance, I had the same thought watching the game. I'm going to give you a little kind of stuff that happened today at the press conference, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Sark was asked about, first off, he said in his opening comments about this game, he said that Quinn had a tremendous game. Saturday after the game, he had the quote that I put as the title in tonight's show, that if Quinn Ewers plays like that moving forward, we're going to be okay, was his comment. And depending on what he meant by okay, but I think we all know what he means. Steve Sarkisian didn't mean that like, oh, it'll get us to a bowl game. That's not what he meant. He meant the mountaintop. Mm-hmm. But here's what I want to ask you about. Somebody said, Coach, your offense has a lot of screen in it, has a lot of short, routes in it. But and Quinn throws those routes well. How do you balance that out with the longer passes that you might want to try to make? And he immediately said, you just tell them to move up and we'll throw those passes. He said, for some reason, people think we always throw deep, so they back up and we take kind of what they give us. He said, you tell them to move up, because they moved up one time we threw over their head for a touchdown, the one to DeAndre Moore. So do you buy kind of what Sark was selling there, the idea that Vandy's defense might have determined a lot of what we saw?
Well, they do. And I get that. But what I'm talking about is the deep middle stuff. The middle's been open a lot, the deep middle. I'm not saying just run go routes, but when they're playing that far off of you, you have chances for drags coming underneath, and you have the chance for that big middle ball coming in, that deep crossing route that you see the NFL eats it up. Because when we're getting two high safeties, even when they're going three high, that little area right around the hash marks at about 18 to 25 yards has been vacant. Like, that's where you fit the ball in, and you give those guys the ball in space and let them catch the ball running. It's what Deebo Samuels, when he's healthy, looks so good doing. It's what Tyreek Hill runs so well. Trust me, as a Buffalo Bills fan, I've seen that one when he was in the Chiefs uniform. Does it well, and we've got the kind of guys that can do it. It screams to me, number one, he knew he was going to get that question. There's not would you ever believe, like, he didn't think coming in, I'm going to get a question on how much short stuff we're throwing?
No, I think he was prepared for it. And it's weird. When he said he had a tremendous game, I thought, oh, somebody's going to ask him to follow up on that. Somebody's going to ask him to explain that. But nobody did. 16 questions of a press conference. They let him have that one. But then towards the end, somebody kind of threw in this one to try to get him to take a little bit of a discussion on it. And you're right. It sounded like he was ready to go.
He was. And I feel like Quinn's in a slump right now. And it's as much a mental slump as anything else. And I think there's a lot to be said when a guy's in a slump. He did throw the pick to start the game, but then he rattled off, 17 in a row, something like that?
Yeah, it was like 17 or 18, I think, after that one. Yeah.
In a row. So, when we're complaining about the passing game and he's putting together games like that, that's what I think Sark means by we'll be okay. Like, he's okay with – he knows – I think that what's weird is the shift in the identity of this team. You think of a Steve Sarkisian team, a team that's going to put up points, an offensive genius, right? And this team has shifted into offense just don't beat us because the defense is that damn good that they're keeping you in ball games. Just don't turn the ball – just don't screw us, which is really, really – think about where we were. I mean, we were talking about our top 5 receivers coming into the season being all guys that were sub 4.4 guys. You've got – 3 guys in that room that run sub 4.32. Like, there's a lot of speed in that room. And you look at what we had with running backs, and we didn't know what we were getting with Helm. But I think coming in, we felt like this offense is going to be able to put up points. We're replacing these monsters from the defensive side of the ball. Are we going to be able to replace those guys? That was the talk. The talk was, how do we replace Murphy and Sweat? Like, that was the issue, right? Like, we were all going, how do you backfill that production? And now here we are, 7 games into the season, and we're going, this defense is carrying this offense and going, hey, just quit giving teams like Georgia's 12-yard fields. Like, that doesn't help.
Right. And think about it. Those the 2 tipped interceptions end up being touchdowns, and the defense got put in a tough situation there. But otherwise, They were really, really good. Thanks for jumping in tonight with the Outsiders, Chance and myself. The other guys have stuff that's going on. They'll be back on Wednesday for the Pick'em night and What Are You Drinking Wednesday. It's an off week, but we'll still have a What Are You Drinking Wednesday. Pick some games around the country. There's some good ones, cocktail parties and other games. Almost 400 of you in the Specs chat. We'll also be thanking some of our great partners like we always do. Let's start out with that Covert Ford. Here comes the truck.
Covert Ford of Austin. All season we're bringing the football fun to you with unbeatable deals on our all-new Ford F-150s. Whether you're tailgating with friends or cruising to the big game, our powerful trucks are your perfect MVP. Come experience the rugged performance and cutting-edge features that make every drive an experience. Touchdown savings await at Covert Ford of Austin, a family tradition since 1909. CovertFord.com.
Thanks to those that have jumped in the chat. By the way, Eric, I apologize for the Navy lock. I have learned my lesson. God's team has smited me multiple times. I'm staying away. I'm staying away from God's team this week in the picks. I guarantee it. I don't even know. Even if Notre Dame, I wouldn't even take Notre Dame for sure to, I'm going to stay away. Don't care what the matchup is. So I apologize for that. Chance, our man Chris Bennett threw in the simple phrase of penalties are killing this team. Certainly, it was a big part of the game. I was going to ask you from the quarterback standpoint. I always think about when penalties start to be annoying to the fan base and everything. I always start to wonder how the players handle it on the field. For you, that kind of stuff starts happening. Were you more of a I'm getting in your face, I'm going to grab a face mask on my left tackle and say, big man, I need you? Or were you the kind that thinks, hey, they're going to be upset as it is. We're just going to keep going, duck our heads, and I'll let the coaches deal with the screaming?
So I was not a big screamer. We were in my huddle. We were huge on accountability to each other, but it wasn't a big screamer. I don't feel like that accomplishes anything. And you got to remember, when you're in the huddle, it's almost like you're dealing with 10 children. And they all have different personalities, and none of them react the same to outside stimulus, right? Some don't handle the adversity well as far as getting called out in front of their peers. Others will want to fight you. Others, you could tell them they're the dumbest box of shit you've ever met in your life, and they'd smile at you and go, well, that's the nicest thing anybody's ever said about me. And they mean it, right? So yeah. It's managing those personalities. But my thing is, when you're having these kind of penalties, you get flustered, and so many times it makes you want to try more, and therefore you get locked up. You're not playing smooth. That's when you get behind, and that's when you start having. That's when you do get guys that are so upset about having a penalty, and they've got a holding the call before, and you'll see them have a false start the next play because they're so eager to get out of their stance and go make right what they just messed up. And so it's better to calm them down and say, hey, look, let's bring this shit back together. All right, we fucked up. It ain't changing now. Let's move forward, right? And that, but it's weird because most of them were blatant penalties. There was one, Helms. I have no idea where that holding was. Like, I don't understand what he could have possibly done. But for the better part of the game, though, these were penalties that were just dumb. Like, it was guys not playing fundamentally sound like they played for the majority of the year. And I think that's where you get killed.
Yeah, I thought the Muhammad one probably needed to get called. The Banks one where he's just falling down, he tackles that guy. Like, you got to call that. You're gonna they're gonna show that play at like officiating school. I mean, it's just that was letter of the law stuff. You don't do that, and you wish also late in the game, Chance, if that pick six goes the other way, Kobe Black, a young star, gets a little love. That would have been cool. It goes 34-17 at that point, feels a lot more comfy. But Vernon Broughton being out for the first 2 quarters of the Florida game sucks. I wish he could have controlled himself there in that moment. But every time I see that replay, I think, yeah, I hate that they're throwing guys out of games. Y'all know this about me. I've said it for years. I don't want them demonizing defensive players. But if that's the way the rule lays out, Chance, I knew he was out. I knew they were going to throw that as targeting.
You knew it was coming, and it sucks. It does. There's a lot of them. I had to have this argument during the A&M game Saturday night when there was the targeting call, right?
Yeah.
And it was a I see you, you see me reaction type thing, and it was I thought it was a great hit. But by the book,
You're talking about the Aggie receiver, the play by the Aggie receiver?
the
Ja'Day Walker getting thrown
where
out?
it came from the outside in.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. Like, to me, that's one of those, you get to the sideline and the dude is getting high-fived and carried everywhere. But by the letter of the rule, it was the right call. And that's what's frustrating is I think fans so many times get upset with officials, whereas me, I don't like the rule. That's where I have a problem. But by the rule, it was the right call. Like, that's frustrating.
Yeah. Chance, when we're growing up watching games in the 80s and in the 90s, that's a hell of a football play. Right now, to me, that's boneheaded. That is boneheaded. You got to know. No wide receiver coach in America should be teaching his guys to do that on a regular basis. You're asking them to go look at it.
No doubt. But it was beautiful. It was.
What? Oh, no. Dude, it had every bit of – remember the Marquise Goodwin crackback against UCLA? Remember that bad boy?
Oh, yeah.
They'd take away Marquise Goodwin's scholarship nowadays. Like, you'd get taken out of school nowadays if you do that.
And here's the thing. Here's a funny story for you. So when my dad was playing for Bill Parcells, and this is the way I look at those kind of penalties. They hurt, but if you're going to do it, the way it was done by the A&M receiver is right because it was a statement about how that game was going. It was a statement to LSU, and you take the penalty, and this is how, Trump was on Rogan talking about the weave. I weave it all back together. Is Bill Parcells would always have a guy that was not a huge player, who was not somebody that was a massive contributor, but like he was known to do it. He did it more than once. That he would send this guy on the field to go pick a fight with the best player from the other team so that both players get ejected, right? Like sometimes, but it also fires your team up, right? So sometimes you take the penalty and you just say, look, we're going to set the tone of this game. So I liked it. But with Broughton's, I thought it was foolish. Like he couldn't stop, but you can't go high anymore. You just can't, and you can't go low.
especially Chance when the difference in your sizes is that distinct. Broughton's got to know it. He's got to know they're going to see that as just a giant guy hitting a not so giant guy, and it's the most important not so giant guy.
Yeah.
You're doing it to the quarterback. Unfortunately, they're gonna hit you with that one. That one was tough. Chris Bennett, thank you for bringing that up. If y'all want to throw in chats, please do. Super chats, we love it when you throw something in the old tip jar. Thanks to climbing up towards 600 of you in the Specs chat. We will definitely give Specs some more love as we go along. Also, I got a couple extra bits of love tonight. We had a weird deal today in the afternoon show. Got cut off a little early because of some technology. So a couple of my sponsors didn't get their love. I'll give them extra love later in the week, but wanted to also give them a little extra love here on The Outsiders. And one of them I definitely want to mention, because if y'all haven't been there, I will get you a little bit hungry here, but give you a good idea for the off week. If you have not been to Taste on Main in beautiful downtown Buda, this is a great place to check out. If you're looking for a great steakhouse that isn't a stuffy steakhouse with like a dress code and, excuse me, sir, do you have your tux shirt? None of that. Real chilled out atmosphere. They've got multiple bar areas. One of them is a great treehouse bar that's out in the back this time of year. Terrific for that. Just some of the best steak I've ever had. The drinks are great. I recommend the Sam Elliott's Mustache. It is mwah if you're a whiskey drinker. Food's great. The desserts are incredible. If you want to go after a brunch, they do brunch Saturday and Sunday, 10 to 3. Taste on Main. If you've heard us talk about Hayes City Store, these are the same people that bring you Hayes City Store. They're right here in downtown Buda. You can go check out Taste on Main and then go do what my wife and I do. Walk around, check out some antique shops, do a little bit of that. It's a cool environment down there. So check them out. Taste on Main. Now I made myself hungry on a Monday night, but
Chad, have you seen the McConaughey commercial with Christian McCaffrey?
Yes. Wait, hold on. Yes, the Uber Eats. Yes.
It's about terrific. The food. They've just been trying to sell you on food. And the way that is so dry, Matthew McConaughey to a T, and that's what makes it so funny. It's such a dry and McCaffrey has like no he has no personality. I mean, he's funny, but he's just kind of like Peyton. It's that dry funny. Oh my God, when Jerry Rice, okay, like it's just so good.
Yeah, it is very. You're right. It builds itself up. Everything he says is funny, and then they end with that Jerry Rice comment, and it's fantastic. Thank y'all for jumping in the chat. Thanks to Horn for moving me up to the favorite Aggie spot. I hate to imagine who was in the number one spot that took over. Normally, I'm everybody's second favorite Aggie, but I appreciate Horn that I got up to the top of your list. I will take that. Speaking of the Aggies, Chris Bennett would ask me, Chad, was that a shot at Jimbo by Elko after that huge win? I do think that's what it was, CB. I can't interpret that any other way. Win like that, talk about your culture, and reference that you're not a coach that talks fast and doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, I think it was. Whether he meant to or not, whether it was real, calculated, I don't know. But yes, I thought of Jimbo right away when he said it. All right. So now speaking of the Aggies, Longhorns, and other such things, Chance, why don't we take a look at your updated SEC power rankings? Because every week now I'm just excited as a huge fan of the house divided. Like, where are they going to be? And Texas gets a nice road win. Well, maybe it's not a nice road win, but they're all nice because it's a win. A&M gets a win over LSU. So let's take a look at what Chance did this week. Oh, looky there. House divided, stomping up towards the dogs at 2 and 3. That must have been fun, Chance.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you know what? It's shaping up to be a really, really fun end of the year. I don't see A&M getting beat. I just don't. I think it's funny that hearing Aggie fans talk about, you thought last week was the rival, the Gulf War, or whatever you want to call it. Now we got the real rivalry with South Carolina. I'm like, y'all are going to beat the brakes on them. A&M is a better team with Reed at quarterback. That's just a fact. I'm sorry. I felt that way since the beginning of the season. He went into a hostile Florida environment, and I know that they were still working out their quarterback situation, but he won up there. He's a good quarterback. Shocks me that Blake Baker and that defense look like they did not spend a minute preparing for the possibility that he comes in the ballgame. Yeah, I was absolutely baffled by that.
Was it interesting? This is weird, Chance. Both sides of this. The Missouri game, Drinkwitz refused to believe that anybody but Reed was playing. He prepared for Reed the whole time. Then A&M shows up, plays Wigman, and they just step all over Missouri. Then in this one, it really felt like LSU had no thought that Reed could ever play in this game. And as soon as he walked out there, it just felt like they didn't know what to do for the rest of the night.
They didn't have a clue. I mean, and he played an excellent game. I mean, he ran that zone read so well that I can't remember if it was his third or his fourth touchdown. I mean, he rode the back all the way down about as long as you could possibly do it. And here's the thing. The kid can spin it. And I'm not saying he spins it as good as Wegman, but he gives you that ability to open things up and make you have to worry about what he's doing with his legs enough that the play actions are going to create throwing opportunities down the field. And they're a better team. And I'm telling you, Texas fans need to watch out because that game at the end of November at that place is going to be crazy. And this is a very, very dangerous A&M football team.
All right, so back here, we talked about the front a little bit. You went Georgia, Texas, and then the Aggies. Then there's Tennessee. Then there's your LSU Tigers. Slip them down to 5. Ole Miss, Bama. Anything else that was tough for you this week to figure out? Like, were there any big challenges this week in the rankings, or did it all lay out pretty well?
I struggled with 1 through 4. Well, I didn't struggle. I struggled with 2 through 4. How about that? Okay. That was where my battle was. LSU beat Ole Miss. They're naturally behind them. Alabama, we don't know what they are. Arkansas put up almost 600 yards of offense. That team is looking dangerous too. They're one of those that when they show up and play, they're really, really good. When they make mistakes, they are really, really not good. So they're our Jekyll and Hyde team of the year, but they moved up into that top 8. Florida, Missouri, I could have put Missouri at 13-14 because when Cook's not in at quarterback, they're a bad football team. They just are.
Yeah, that is a weird team. And Chance, I still don't know how they don't know they have Luther Burden. I don't know what is going on with him. Is it him? Is it the receivers coach? Is it the OC? Is it Cook? And like, how did
do you think Ryan Wingo ever wakes up and goes, God, I dodged that bullet?
Probably every day. I mean, I remember Cook showing up to SEC media days and somebody asked him maybe it was, do you have the best wide receiver in the SEC? And he proudly stopped, kind of thought, and went, yeah, I think I do. I think that's who he is. Nobody laughed. Nobody called him out on it. Luther Burden had a rep coming into that moment and this season. And Chance, I just think it was just weird. Once that touchdown got called back in College Station, it's like he disappeared off the face of the college football planet.
And he was one of the most talked about guys coming in. And he's still on big board. It's that whole thing. I thought they were frauds coming into the season. And if you remember, before they ever walked into College Station and got embarrassed, they snuck out of some games early. That they had an opportunity to lose. So I thought they were a fraudulent team. I like the Cook kid. I don't think he's a great quarterback, but I think he's a good leader, and I think his team rallies around him.
Yeah, and that's why, Chance, there's such a wild game coming up. Who would have thought that Oklahoma at Missouri is probably going to be OU's chance to make a bowl game?
Yeah.
They're going to beat Maine this week, we would assume, which gets them to 5. But the shot at 6, I wouldn't pick them to win in Baton Rouge, obviously. No. I would not pick them to beat Bama at home. They are going to have to figure out a way to beat Missouri. That's what they're going to have to do. They got to go to Columbia and win.
And the funny thing is that's an old school rivalry, right? Like I believe they're in their little pod, are they not?
That was that's a good question. I can't recall. I'd have to look and see if they're going to have them go. It may be.
I think they are, because that's an old school rivalry that goes back a long time. But to have them have to go up there and look, the thought of Oklahoma not even being bowl eligible is hysterical. First of all,
my God,
like
how great would that be?
Oh, I don't enjoy people's misery, but let's just say I'm not sad for them.
No, it would be one of the greatest things ever. There's a look at Chance's SEC Power Poll. They do that. He does it as part of that Houston Chronicle group every week. So make sure you are checking that out. Texas obviously in the bye week. They'll come out of it with a Florida game that's already set. If you don't know, the next 2 Texas games are 11 a.m. kicks. So get your early schedule, your early mind on early home game, 11 a.m. And then the Arkansas game has already been set for an 11 a.m. kick. All right. Chance, we talked about Quinn earlier. Let's talk about Arch. No, not that Arch. Not Jason Dick's Arch. Why don't you tell them about Arch Public and what you got going on over there?
Man, Arch Public and our guys – actually, I wish Jason Dick was here. We could talk about it. The guys are coming in town for that Florida game. We're having a little tailgate over in the Jason Dick area of the world on that southeast side of the stadium. So that'll be a lot of fun. But the guys at Arch Public, they're rolling out a brand new algorithm. So not only are we making money that we control that stays in our account, that's in and out of the market within 45 minutes at any time. So you're not playing the market, you're just playing the swings and making the money. But they're adding some other stuff now. You're going to have the ability to, let's just say if you've had an interest in Bitcoin, but you're not too sure about how it works, the algorithm is going to take care of that for you. So all those things are coming from Arch Public. Tillman and his crew, they've done a phenomenal job. We showed you all the numbers after this week. This is the last week of October, so I have some October numbers to show you all. But that was the 90 days leading into September, plus 20% almost. And then in the month of September, we did 9.22%. So right at 30% over 120 days. Pretty damn good. We'll see what we did in October. But Tillman and his guys, they do a great job. Arch Public, you should give them a try. See if they're the people for you.
All right, we are glad you're with us tonight for the Outsiders. Texas gets the win. There was a little shakiness to it. Chance, I think it's safe to say, in watching these two teams play, the Texas game obviously occurs first chronologically, and then the A&M game. When I went back to do my rewatches, I'm probably the only human that makes sure I watch both those games every week. But I decided to watch at first. I watched Texas from halftime to the end, and I watched the Aggies from the beginning up until Reed came in, because they played. It's almost like they played the same game in reverse. Aggies had the sluggish start, end up getting to the finish line looking good, and they had a 15-point win, 15 points, something like that. Yeah, right. And then, with Texas, the really good part was like second quarter. They seem to be real good at second quarters, by the way. Sark needs to bottle that and then expand it a little bit. But
Right.
then it was staggering to the finish line. So I'm assuming you would tell me as a player, you'd rather have A&M's game from Saturday, in just the theory of the game. You'd rather have that than the Texas version. Is that fair? I mean, I know a win's a win, but wouldn't you rather have that one where you're finishing stronger instead of having to kind of, grab that onside kick and then just kind of at the end?
I think so, but I think the mentality was, and this is where you struggle. Yeah, we watched Vanderbilt beat Alabama. We saw what Vanderbilt's been capable of doing, and you can watch film and everything else, but there's a difference between all the glitz and glamour and the 1 versus 5 and the number one game and game days there, and you've got 105,000 to a stadium in Nashville that's Vanderbilt, that's under construction, so there's not that many people there. It's just kind of feels like, let's just go get the job done, right? Like, it's just a weird feeling. That's different than the blackout in Kyle Field. So yeah, I would rather end the game with mud stomping a team that I have a rivalry with than sputtering out of Nashville. We got our win, but ultimately that's what Texas needed to do. They just needed to go get their win. And Quinn needed to see some completions, and I think he did that. But I tell you, A&M has improved every week. And since Quinn's injury, the Texas offense has gotten worse every week.
Yeah, that is the weirdest part of that team. And there's two weird parts for me. Overall, the offense, we talked about it. Go all the way back to the Mississippi State game, even before Quinn came back. Just some sluggishness on offense. Things have not quite clicked. But then the other part of it is how good Quinn's good has been versus how bad his bad has been. Ketch has done a great job this week of breaking it down quarter by quarter. And Chance, he's got quarters that could send him to New York. Mm-hmm. Like badass 200 or better passing rating kind of quarters. And then he's also got quarters that put him well below like the worst quarterback in America right now. It is the wildest, super high roller coaster that then dives into a lake right by the amusement park. It is crazy, that contrast. So when I heard Sark, this is me, third party observer, when I heard him say tremendous game, I'm like, whoa, wait, hold on. Quinn wouldn't tell me he had a tremendous game. Would he, Chance? 2 tipped interceptions and the sluggishness towards the end, and we barely get to the finish line and win by 3? Quinn wouldn't have if I'd walked up to Quinn and said, Quinn, you were tremendous tonight, wouldn't he have said, no, man, I wasn't that?
No, and I think that's a lot of coach speak. I mean, Quinn would tell you honestly how he felt. There was nothing about that game. I mean, early on, yes, but as the game, when he was in that little spout where he was completing passes, everything was a swing pass or a screen pass or, a short pass, and it was getting very frustrating to watch. But I never felt like that against Michigan, where it was just gel. We're on the same page. The playbook is open. We feel good. We know what we're seeing. It was where the offensive line felt like they were gelling, and the quarterback play was, I see what the defense is doing. Everything slowed down for me, and I'm just going to have fun with this. To whereas now everything feels difficult. Every play it feels like, and I'm just talking about the feeling of the game. There's a difference in when every play feels like you're playing 2nd and 3, and where every play feels like you're playing 3rd and 8. Like, those are 2 different games, where even when you're at 2nd and 3, it feels like 3rd and 8 because everything is just clunky the whole time. That's how this Texas offense feels to me right now. And I don't know. You're a third-party observer. Would you agree or no?
Yeah, I mean, that's I keep going back after rewatching the whole game, Chance. I keep going back to those mistakes. Like I wanted to rewatch the game and go, aha, it's because the 1st and 10 plays just didn't work. Well, that's not really what we saw. Like the 1st and 10 plays were working. They just got, blown up by the mistakes. And just when you thought they were getting momentum, it was like I wanted to go back and watch every little swing pass and say, ha, it went nowhere. It's like, no, it actually went somewhere. Then the play comes back. So it was a combination of things to me. I'm not the one that's ever, in this case, I'm not putting it all on Quinn, and I'm not putting it all on the rest of the team. I think it took a full village to pull that one off. A game that could have been, let's see, what was the score? It should have been like, 31-17, I guess, at one point, where it could have gone to be a touchdown there. They have one of those red zone moments. They don't get in. I wasn't thrilled. If I'm a Texas fan, I'm not thrilled that 21-7 went to 21-10. Why did that happen? A turnover gives the offense the ball with a minute to go, and they do absolutely nothing with it. Quinn does take a sack he can't take there. That's on him. And then the defense I know the kid hit a 54-yarder, but Vanderbilt had to drive to get there. And you let them do something with that last 40 seconds, and now all of a sudden that crowd goes to get their hot dogs thinking, hey, it's only 21-10. So just there's so many little things in that game. I thought it was – obviously it wasn't death by paper cut, but it was, so it was sluggish win by paper cut because – they got to a certain point, and then they just started taking weird little hunks of damage. And, a bunch of start and stop. They lost the fluidity, and, you cannot plan on packing 2 turnovers that result in 2 touchdowns and 10 penalties for Fayetteville or College Station. If you do that, if I just tell you that at kickoff of either of those games, there's no way you're confident Texas wins those games. Correct?
No, there's not a chance. There's no chance.
Yeah. So, and the other thing, Chance, that's weird, it finally hit me watching this game. I should have been saying this for weeks. Because of that weird Vandy environment, less than 30,000 seats, that many Texas fans, Texas still hasn't really played a road game. Like, they haven't really played a true nasty road environment game. And holy hell, are they about to get 2 of them. In a 2-week span, they're going to get the maniac, we can't stand you, we wouldn't, what, if you were on fire, that version. And then they're going to get the little brother, your family, but we base our whole lives around what it would be like to beat you. And one of them is, what's Arkansas Stadium? 80,000, maybe 90,
85, 90, yeah.
90. And I can guarantee you, Chance, you were there for that George Strait show. They're going to put 110 at Kyle Field. I'm just telling you right now.
Absolutely.
It's going to be 110, and the place is going to shake. So Texas still has to go find that environment and really face that type of environment. They'll get 2 of them. Let's see if they're ready, because that's where Texas fans are concerned. They're smart enough to know that formula, not that that's the formula, but you can't have that kind of mess up and expect to win those games. Sark's going to be on them for 2 weeks about it. And hopefully the Florida game looks a lot cleaner so that when you head to Fayetteville, you feel better about it.
Well, and these guys need to clean it up, not just for this football team. They need to clean it up for themselves. I mean, Cam Williams, he is hurting himself in the draft because of it, because it becomes a stigma when you start seeing it repetitively. So these guys need to clean it up for this team and for themselves. But, the interesting thing, we talked about the 2 different directions. And I was in Kyle Field watching the Aggies play and then watching my Longhorns play Michigan on my phone. And it was a great day. But I walked out of Kyle Field that day and I thought, that offense, I don't care how loud this place is, that offense is going to roll in here with that defense against this pathetic offense. We're going to stomp them. And if you remember, I picked Texas to go 11-1 with their one loss being at Kyle Field. That was what I picked before the season.
Right.
And I walked out of that game after watching Quinn and that offense and how that defense play. I went, we're going to come in here and push them around. It's going to be glorious. I don't feel that way right now. I'm back to how it was at the beginning of the season with an offense that I don't know can go in against that pass rush that A&M has put up. That's tough.
Well, and we're just also going to have to see how these teams respond now. I'm so excited that they're both 7-1, but both of them have shown you there's some good there, but they also have their inconsistencies. And with A&M, 2 road games, can they handle both? Can they handle South Carolina and Auburn before they get around to that Texas game? They lost last time they played at South Carolina. And then for Texas, again, can you get through the Fayetteville thing? And can you survive that? And then can you survive these 2 home games that you should be paying attention to, but you won't be? Like there's things about those games that are going to make you forget. You should be focused in on Lagway and the Florida talent that's coming in. You should be focused on a top 10 run defense in Kentucky, but they just don't have that flash and they don't have that story that the other 2 have, that Arkansas and A&M have. So just to see if they can both navigate it, because Chance, we could be looking at like 2 10-1 teams, but something tells me we won't. Something tells me that between now and college, I think both teams getting to 9 feels pretty solid right now. Aggies have a pillow that'll get them to 8, so they're definitely getting 9. I said, well, I should knock on things if I say something. It feels like they'll get to 9, right? They're going to have to lose both the South Carolina and Auburn games and Texas if they're not getting there. And then for Texas, 2 out of the 4 feels absolutely reasonable to get them to 9, and then let's see what happens after that. But obviously, it's going to need to be different in certain ways. Thank you for throwing in some chats. We will ATX baits. We'll get to it. All right, we'll get to it. I will bring the outsiders down to your level and ask Chance Mock if he wants to comment. Just give me a second. And we will get there. But I did want to thank another one of my great partners that you hear on Orange Bloods Live. Let's talk about sleeping. We do this show at night, but we've never really talked about this crew before. It is sinus and snoring specialists. It's almost November. I used to have allergy stuff every November. Clockwork. Like there was, I could practically circle it on my calendar that I was going to have allergy issues, but I don't have it anymore. 2017, I went into sinus and snoring specialists, and they got rid of my allergies for good. It's fantastic. They got rid of my snoring and sleep apnea for good. It's awesome. They've helped my wife out as well. She's on that CPAP route. She got the CPAP machine, and she absolutely loves it. It is whisper quiet. I barely know. I have to check with my phone light to make sure. Is she over there? Is it? Yeah, well, there she is. It's good. Everything is so quiet. So quiet. And she sleeps great. I sleep great. You can sleep great too. Sinus and snoring specialists. Feel clear, rested, and healthy. It's sinussnoringent.com. You can also just call them 601-0303. If you know Austin, you know where Parmer and Mopac come together. That's where they are, right there in that area. So check them out. One of our great partners around here on Orange Bloods Live. Ain't nothing more important than sleeping good. All right, let's get to it, Chance. I apologize if this is below your level, but ATX Bates says, damn it, Chad, why haven't you brought up the most important topic, Quinn's girlfriend Bentley dismissal? Do you buy in any way the story that's rolling around about Quinn and his girlfriend, or do we just move on?
Well, now I'm intrigued. You have to tell me the story. I haven't heard this story.
All right, apparently here's the story. Quinn was dating somebody. He is no longer dating. That's correct. I believe that is what I heard, that this person attends the University of Oklahoma. Sorry, Oklahoma University. And at some point, she wanted him to buy her a very expensive car. And he didn't want to do it, and now they're not dating anymore. That's the story that's going around.
What?
She tried to pull the, hey, Mr. Fancy NIL, I want a badass car. And there was somebody put out that it might have been a Bentley, and yeah, there you go. Just
all I can say is thank God he dodged the bullet now, because that was a hell of a lot cheaper than it would have been.
yeah, that is rough. Also, I kind of like this chat. Devised by Dev. Good name, by the way. This is not the Big 12. Most fans don't get that. We find out if the Horns are a Big 12 team or an SEC team after Arkansas. Devised, that's a good way to say it. For years, for the 12 years plus now that my team's been in the SEC, I have always said it this way. There are SEC teams and there are teams that are in the SEC. You want to be the first one, not the second one, because technically there are 16 teams that are in the SEC, but they're not all SEC teams to me. By the end of the year, we find out who an SEC team is. An SEC team would go to South Carolina this week and beat them as a top 10 team. Is A&M an SEC team? We're going to find out. And I agree with you. Texas goes to Fayetteville and handles that group. And I don't care if that's handling, I don't care if it's 17-14. Win the game. They go and they win. They deal with everything. They deal with every broken bottle. They deal with every shaken bus. Shaked, pre-shook. Anyway, they deal with all of that crap. The calling the hogs and weird hats and all of it. And they just win the game and get back on the bus and the plane and come home. That's how you prove you're an SEC team. I totally agree with him here, Chance. This is where you decide, because this is a different conference than what Texas was in when it comes to October, November, and, you hope December.
Look, I think you said it exactly right. There is a difference in being in the SEC and being an SEC team. That being said, Texas has talked a lot about how they built this entire team around being an SEC team. That's what the goal was. The goal was not where Texas going to play in the SEC. The goal was we have to build a team that can compete in the SEC. Whether you like it or not, Texas fans, Arkansas has a good football team. That is a hard place to play. You're not going to get any calls other than the calling of the hogs. Just FYI. That's the only calls you're going to get all day long. One thing about Arkansas that you can say, when they're good, when they're bad, when they're terrible, Arkansas is going to line up and play Texas in an extremely physical fashion. That's the way that game has always gone. All the way back to the 60s, that game has been a physical football game, and there is no love lost. So it's a great opportunity to go on the road. You go on the road, you get a win there, a convincing. Now we're playing. Now you got to go play Florida. You've played Florida, you played at Arkansas, you beat Vanderbilt, who did beat Alabama, but whatever. You lost to Georgia, but then you got to go into Kyle Field. If you can go into Kyle Field and get a win, then you can say, look, okay, we're here. Not that we're the best, but we're here. We're part of this now. It's not we're supposed to be here. How about that?
Yeah, Chance, I've said it since I saw that schedule the very first time that I would give Sark and his team so much credit if they win both those games. Just so much credit. I don't care what else. The rest of the year separated. If you go get those wins, I'll be impressed. And by the way, ATX Bates, if Texas beats Arkansas like Vandy, do you give them more credit? Yes. Yes. If they beat them 18-17 on a last-second safety, I will give Texas credit for winning that game. Win at all costs. I don't care what it looks like. I will give you credit. I will not make excuses and apologize. No, just win the damn thing. That's all you have to do to impress me.
Yep. I'm agreeing.
Yeah, and it is weird, Chance, that a team that beat Bama, some fans I think had to reset their brain a little bit, because you do have to keep reminding yourself of that. I know Texas was sluggish. I know that they slipped towards that finish line. But Chance, Alabama, Jalen Milroe and Alabama went to that same place, and they threw the goalposts in a river. And it's just that's part of it. This year, Vanderbilt is a different story than they were, and Texas figured it out. Say what you will. What do you sign up for 4 quarters? Chance, you've been in both of those kinds of games. Sometimes your first 2 quarters are awesome, and you do get a little complacent or sloppy or whatever. And then sometimes you start terrible, and you have to find yourself later. Both of them count the same. Both those wins count the same.
They do, and I keep going back to it, and I know fans don't like to hear it because we did look sloppy. And what did I want to see? I wanted to see us come out and dominate them offensively. I wanted to see the offensive line play better. I wanted to see us play clean. I don't have a whole lot of complaints about the defense. The defense just continues to do what the defense has been doing. Would I have loved that? Yes. Here's the problem. Even when Baylor had Robert Griffin Jr. or Robert Griffin III, RG3, and they were doing what they were doing, you knew that they were a good football team. They still had Baylor, and it was hard to truly buy in. You can look at what Vanderbilt has done this season, and you can really go, hey, they're a good football team. I've had text on this Houston Chronicle SEC Power Poll back and forth with guys going, I'm struggling to put Vanderbilt where they are because they're Vanderbilt. My eyes tell me they're a team that's a good football team. The scoreboard has said they're a good football team.
Right.
And I still struggle because and if you think that these 18 to 20-year-old kids aren't any different, and especially you roll out there early and you're winning and you're up on them, you go, they are who we thought they were. Yeah. And maybe they weren't.
And it's hard to keep It's hard to keep that pedal down. It's hard to keep that all gas, no brakes mindset when it does feel like you're better, right? You felt like you were better 21-7. It felt like things were rolling Texas's way. And, maybe they didn't keep that edge for the entire game. It's a great point. This is a good one too. Randy pointing out Arkansas game being at 11 a.m. helps. Hell yes, it does, Randy. We said that the moment it got set too. That was great news for Texas. I would have been livid if I was an Arkansas fan to see that got set at 11 a.m. They'll still be crazy chance, but you know it. Sleepy kind of road game. That's one where everybody can always be sleepy in an 11 a.m., but in a crazy game like that where it's the home team that's got the crazy fan base and they hate, remember, the special hatred that Arkansas has for Texas is just different. Their coach admitted it at SEC Media Days.
Yeah.
Remember that one, Chance? They presented it to him. Hey, coach, earlier Sark said they thinks your fans hate them more than they love their own team. And Sam Pittman went, yeah, he's probably right.
Yeah. No, it's true. And if you have a Texas license plate and you're going to the game, you do not, whatever you do not try to fill up with gas there. You might as well just go all the way up through Oklahoma. You got a better chance of getting gas there, and you might have your tires slashed when you come out. They truly do hate you, and it is so funny. Like, the hatred that they have, it is true. They hate us more than they like themselves, and it really – but the only difference is when we played there, we played at the 6:30 game, and it was nighttime. They were piss-ass drunk hammered. They'd been drinking since 6 a.m. The only difference is they're just not going to go to bed. They'll just keep the party rolling all night Friday and just roll in there at 11 a.m. That's the difference.
Chance, the thing with me, for a Texas fan that's never been there or never experienced it, maybe you're not old enough to remember a lot of Arkansas games. Like, there's just it's like Tech, but I think it's worse. Everything you think about a Tech fan, and when Tech and Chance, growing up, liking that program and knowing what it's about, but like those Tech fans, there's such an apathy to their anger sometimes. Not only are they angry and mad and they hate you, they don't care. They don't care what you think of it. It's like they become like the Joker in the Dark Knight. They just want to watch it all burn sometimes. And that's what Arkansas does, man. They show up in an anarchistic mood, and they'll do anything to watch their team beat Texas. So that's that first escape. There's two escape jobs, and if Texas pulls them both off, it's going to be real impressive. But that one's going to have a little more just nastiness and teeth to it. The Aggie one's going to be a little more civil. I know civilized and Aggies is not necessarily what people normally say, but I think it'll be more civilized than what you see in Fayetteville.
Absolutely will be. They hate us because they've got nothing else. Like, we are the bane of their existence. At the end of the day, and this is coming from somebody that has spent many nights on the houseboat in Lake Greeson, which is right there in Daisy, Arkansas. There are some beautiful parts of Arkansas, but let me say, there is not very many people that wake up every day with their toes on Arkansas soil and don't wish to God that they were waking up on Texas soil. I promise you.
Yeah. And by the way, Chris Bennett pointed out that was a 6:30 kick in 2021. And we all remember what that one was. That was Arkansas. That was Arkansas putting a physicality on Texas and getting to kind of bow the chest and say, hey, this is what the SEC is all about. And that's what Texas has to avoid, obviously, this year. Still got a game between now and then with Florida. Most importantly, right now, Texas is getting rest. Get a little time away from it on this off week. We appreciate you guys jumping in tonight. Almost 900 of you in there right now in the Specs chat. Let's give Specs their love. If you had your watch party over the weekend and you need to get stocked up again in the bye week, here's Lisa.
Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
We will have Bo and Jason hopefully back with us on Wednesday. Maybe even Blake, the super producer, will jump in. We'll check the picks. I'm guessing I'm not on top of the picks anymore. Although Indiana helped me out. I think I went 1-2, I think, this week. But that Notre Dame picking against Notre Dame, not good. Oregon, I don't know what I did to piss you off. I'm so sorry. I really did think Illinois could hang that road candy. Just too much road candy, Chance. I'm into stomach cramp mode now. I had too much of it. I just kept pounding Skittles. We were driving down the road, and eventually I had to, pull off to the side and throw up a little bit. So I'm gonna try to get a little more sensible this week.
That was so bad.
It was bad. It's very bad. Very bad. Oregon looked great.
CPT does something this week too.
And according to the AP voters Chance, only one voter did not take Oregon as the number one team. 61-1. One person thought it was it Georgia? I guess it is Georgia at number 2. One. That was it.
And it's still, explain this to me, Chad. Just Ohio State damn near gets beat at home by Nebraska, and they're fine. Texas gets a win on the road against, at the time, a top 25 team, but they go behind Miami, who should have lost twice this year already.
Yeah, and because, here's what it is, Chance. It is – I think it's the difference between a game that was close throughout versus a game that looked like it could get away. It looked like you could sort of make it a blowout, make it nice and comfy, make it 3 scores, and then you, again, like we've been talking about tonight, you kind of stumbled to the end. That's not exactly what Ohio State did. I'll be honest, I didn't watch that whole game, but I don't recall that game feeling that way. Like it was I thought that was a little more of a battle throughout, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, at one point, Nebraska went up on them.
Yeah. But I think it's that eyeball thing. It's like you watch a game like that, maybe you give Nebraska a little more credit for keeping it close. Whereas with Texas and Vandy, you had those moments where you thought, okay, this is where Texas pulls away.
Right.
This is where Texas pulls away and they couldn't do it. Especially the pick 6 thing. Right? That game has every opportunity just to be 34-17.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be a totally different discussion if they finish it that way. And if they finish it that way, Broughton doesn't get thrown out, just like everything would feel a lot different. All right, Chance, before we head towards the door tonight, we've been giving love to some of our great partners around here. Obviously, it is the Outsiders presented by Poncho. We'll give them one more bit of love here in a second. But also, our folks over at Prodigy Mortgage have been with us for a while now. Give Thad a little love on the way out.
Yep, our boy Thad and his crew over there, they do a great job, guys. I know that there's a lot. I've had 3 people I've talked to just in the last week, friends of mine that are moving, so I know that the market's heating up. You want somebody to get you through to your deal, give Thad and his crew a call. We'll talk more about Thad next week, but I assure you, if you're looking for a lender, find you a lender, get pre-approved first, then go get your realtor, walk with that piece of paper in your hand, and then that way you look like a serious buyer. They'll consider your offer more, and he's going to get you closed. Thad Lindsay and his crew.
There you go. Again, thanks to everybody for checking out The Outsiders. We are brought to you by Poncho. The shirts are about as comfy as they can be. I love these T-shirts, man. I sleep in the Poncho shirts. They're so comfy. I just went ahead and rocked the Poncho shirt for the shows today as well. Remember, you got all that cool Longhorn stuff that we've shown you throughout our time, throughout these last couple of months. So if you love Texas, check that out. The Wild Bill collection is out there. Go to ponchooutdoors.com. Make sure you mention Orange Bloods Live when you're ordering, but it is just absolutely one of the finest shirts you can get. They've got those hoodies that are super comfortable. They've got those nice crew neck long sleeves that are great. I got a couple of those as well. You are going to love them. And one more time, couple more times in October, let's give them the love. 50% off, 50% of the profits rather from the poncho and those pink shirts are going to be donated to Casting for Recovery. Just imagine, Chance, that calf is thinking, is that guy in the pink shirt about to rope me right around my neck? I can't believe it. Sometimes you just never know. You never know. Don't you dare think a man ain't tough because he's wearing a pink shirt.
My dad used to say mean men wear pink because they're allowed to. And if anybody says anything, they won't say it again.
Hey, that's it. And I always say I've had a couple situations in my life where if you find out that a woman that's important to you thinks you look good in pink, you might go ahead and buy a pink shirt.
Damn right you do.
Because you never know. Men, if you're out there, go ahead and find a nice way to ask your wife, ask your girlfriend, ask that person, hey, what about a pink shirt? They were talking about the pink. You might find out. She'd be like, oh, you look good in pink. You need to get a pink shirt.
Hey, if you keep mama happy, then your life will be great.
Exactly. And that's all your boys need to hear too. Well, she thinks I look good in pink. Say no more. Say no more. All right. Y'all have yourselves a great Monday. We're going to go check out the rest of this Monday night football game. Speaking of happy wife, happy life, my wife is a Steelers fan. So, well, she's happy. 16-9 is what the score is as I'm looking at it. And she's doing me a favor as a Cowboys fan because the Giants could lose. And obviously, I need everybody else to lose as a Cowboys fan because they don't do much to help me out. So, and then Washington does that at the end, Chance. The hell was that? They were done. They were beaten. The Bears had it done, and then dude starts interacting with the crowd, and we get a Hail Mary by your former LSU side piece.
That's right. That was nuts. And the worst part is, who was it? Was it Williams? I don't know who it was. Taunting the crowd.
Right. The guy that ended up tipping the ball.
Yes.
Number 29. That's the guy that's messing with the fans at the snap. Come on.
That was a long flight home to Chicago for him.
Come on, 2-9. That was crazy, man. Cordell Stewart at Michigan thinks that was a hell of a pass. I mean, Jaden Daniels let that one go. 65 yards, just beautiful arc. Perfect. Oh, my Lord.
And he moved around in the pocket, too. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, what was the time I saw on him? 13 seconds that he gave himself?
Yeah.
From snap? You know better than anybody, Chance. Did you ever have a play where you had 13 seconds to make a throw?
No, I had to burn 7 one time just because it was 4th down, and so I had to run around just to burn. And then this was in the Arena League, and they said launch it into the upper deck. And so I ran around, and I was watching the clock, and I was watching the scoreboard to see where the guys were following me, and I just turned and chunked it up into the upper deck. But that 7 seconds felt like forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
That's all. That's bad. That is bad. Thank you all for jumping in. Like, subscribe, get your notifications. We'll be back on Wednesday night for a What Are You Drinking Wednesday. We'll make some picks for the games around the country. Enjoy your bye week, Texas fans, because 4 big ones are coming up. Thank y'all for your support. Y'all have a good one. Until next time, we are the Outsiders, and we are legitimately worth a shit, even if there's less of us here. We don't care.